Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and welcome back to Eternal Purgatory. Today we'll be talking about mobile games. Yes, the ultimate time waster. With the advent of mobile games over the course of the 2000s, they've gotten us all through the boredom of college lectures, being placed on hold, sitting through commercial breaks, and for a while there, we had a great lineup of games that kept our ever-fleeting attention spans, with many of them still being popular to this day. But as time has gone on and technology has developed, mostly for the better, it feels like mobile games have only gotten significantly worse. They've gone down the route of shoving microtransactions down your throat, pushing subscription services that cost way too much money, and have essentially become virtual ad machines. What the f***? But even though most of today's mobile games have gone down the proverbial sinkhole, there was always one mobile game that I've held in somewhat high regard. A game that was not only attached to one of my favorite shows of all time, but also let me have my own creative spin on it. And that game was, of course, the one, the only, SpongeBob Moves In. SpongeBob Moves In was a city building game where you got to build your very own Bikini Bottom, interact with characters, and complete quests to level up your town. You think I'm joking, don't you? I loved SpongeBob Moves In when it first came out. Building my own version of Bikini Bottom was a dream of mine as a kid, and getting to see all the characters walk around your town was really fun to see. I loved the concept of the game, and while the art style was lacking a bit, I loved pretty much everything else about it. Until I found a much better game. I soon discovered The Simpsons Tapped Out, a city building game where you got to build your very own Springfield, interact with characters, and you get the point. And while I didn't even watch The Simpsons at the time, the game felt much more substantial compared to Moves In. The art style was pretty faithful to the actual show, and each of the characters had actual voice acting attached to them. Well, most of them, but it was still better than nothing. Over time, as I played both games, I found myself playing Tapped Out more and more, even though I wasn't even familiar with most of the characters. I played the game a ton throughout the mid-2010s, and it eclipsed most of the other mobile games I played at the time. But, as I'm sure you're all aware at this point, the game recently came to an end this past January after nearly 13 years of constant service. So, because of how much I played the game and how much it once meant to me, I wanted to give the game its flowers for one final time. So now, join me as I give my own tribute to what is probably my favorite mobile game of all time, The Simpsons Tapped Out. The Simpsons Tapped Out was developed and published by EA Mobile, and was released in March of 2012 on iOS and just under a year later for Android. The game has you team up with Homer Simpson to rebuild Springfield after he blows it up from spending $1,000 on a mobile game?
Oh well, I'll just tell them that my kid did that.
This better not be a precursor for this game. You're then tasked with cleaning debris, placing buildings, unlocking characters, and completing different jobs. These would earn you in-game money to buy more buildings and decorations, and experience points to level up your town. The game initially launched with 20 levels, letting you unlock characters like the full Simpson family, Ned Flanders, Chief Wiggum, Krusty the Clown, and Cletus the Slack-jawed Yoko. They put Cletus in the game before Nelson. What the f***? One of my personal favorite parts of the game is how each character had their own set of animated jobs, which brought the game to life even more. You could have Homer play on his tablet, Bart skateboard around town, or have Marge walk around with in her arms. You could also become friends with and visit other people's Springfields to earn extra money and exclusive rewards. So yeah, while Tapped Out wasn't the most expansive game right out of the gate, it still provided a pretty good amount of content for a free-to-play mobile game. And with new updates and plenty of characters to add, the game had nothing but a momentous future ahead of itself. But then again, I do feel like I'm forgetting about something. Something important. Yeah, remember when I told you all this game was made by EA? You could f***ing tell. There was also the donut currency, which you could buy with everyone's favorite legal scam, microtransactions. You could use donuts to speed up tasks, buy exclusive decorations and buildings, and unlock iconic characters like Barney Gumble, Hans Moleman, the blue-haired lawyer. This guy. You could also earn a very small amount of donuts from cleaning debris and leveling up, but if you wanted to afford the family dog, you'd have to pay up. And while there would later be ways to cheese the system, Donuts are one of the more complicated parts of Tapped Out's history. But enough about fishing for whales for now, let's move on to how the game expanded. The game would get fairly consistent updates with new levels and characters, but the real bread and butter came from the events. Starting with the first Treehouse of Horror event that October, the game would host around 12 events each year that let you unlock exclusive characters, costumes, and buildings. You had your annual events like Treehouse of Horror, Thanksgiving, and the Christmas events that filled your Springfield with snow, as well as other events that were based around specific episodes or original concepts in general. Some of my personal favorites included the superhero events, which let you use your characters to fight enemies, the Clash of Clones event, which literally let you raid other people's towns just like Clash of Clans, and the Stonecutters event, which was actually happening when I first started playing the game. Most of the early events revolved around earning currencies and tapping NPCs throughout your town, but as time went on and the devs got lazier, the events simply shifted to completing tasks to earn these rewards. And while they had plenty of show material to work with, I'm honestly surprised they had enough content for over 10 years worth of events. And for as fun as the new levels and events were for the game, Tapped Out really shined with its major expansions. The first of these expansions came in the summer of 2013 with the Squidport update. This expansion not only added an entire ocean to the west of your town, but also let you build your own boardwalk with buildings, restaurants, and attractions. This also opened the opportunity for boats, islands, and other objects to fill the ocean as well. The only thing that did kind of suck about this update was how the new buildings could only be placed in the Squidport itself, so if you wanted to place the Flying Dutchman into the town like it is in the show, too f***ing bad, I guess. But that wouldn't be the only major expansion the game would see. The Squidport update was an exciting addition, but it could not compare to the scale and possibilities of what came next. The Krustyland update. People didn't like this update. Okay, let me rephrase that. The Krustyland update was a good idea. The expansion saw you build your own amusement park, building up the park with rides and restaurants to attract more visitors. Some of your characters could also visit the park to help clean debris, work jobs, and even go on the rides to earn tickets, the currency for this expansion. And you're probably thinking, hey, that sounds like a really cool idea for this game, and to that, I completely agree. I even remember as a kid when I first hit level 20, I was more excited to build Krustyland than I was for the town hall building. However, there was a pretty major problem with this expansion that I couldn't even ignore when I was a kid. Instead of building Krustyland in your Springfield, you were given a shuttle bus that would transport you to an entirely different location. So once you finished all the quests and built up your Krustyland, there was pretty much no reason to return to it. And even with the occasional small addition to the expansion, most players would leave their Krustylands dormant. And in true Simpsons fashion, specific quests even made fun of how everyone hated Krustyland. These problems would be amended in a later update, but for the first half of the game's existence, Krustyland left a pretty mixed legacy overall. The next major expansion wouldn't happen until July of 2015 with the Springfield Heights update. Once you hit level 30, you could expand beyond the mountains to create a wealthy district with mansions and other luxurious buildings. The land would center around generating real estate and also included upgradable buildings, a slew of new decorations, and 6 new currencies that you could earn from completing jobs. And while the concept here wasn't as exciting as Krustyland's, this all took place within your Springfield and you were allowed to move buildings between both areas. So with all the new content and freedom of the update, you'd think there would be nothing for me to bitch about, right? Well, you'd be wrong. Remember those 6 currencies I mentioned? They were the absolute bane of my existence. The furniture, coffee, and yoga mats could be earned through simple jobs, but you had to use those currencies to earn the other 3. So let's say you wanted to buy the luxury yacht item for 25 awards. Well, to get 1 award, you need to spend 2 phones and 2 pills. To get a phone, you need 2 pieces of furniture and 1 coffee, and for a pill, you need 2 coffees and 1 yoga mat. So 25 awards broke down into 50 phones and 50 pills, which broke down even further into 100 furniture, 125 coffees, and 50 yoga mats. And if you're considering the amount of time it takes to earn each item, you're looking at a grand total of over 34 hours of jobs. That's the most amount of math I've done in years. And look, I'm not trying to look for a reason to hate this or Krustyland or anything like that. These were both good updates that had annoying caveats to them. These were unfortunately examples of fairly decent updates that just failed to hit the mark. But thankfully, the next time we got a major expansion, it delivered in spades.
That's right, Monorail! 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 Monorail!
Just over a month later came the Monorail Event, one of the most fan-requested updates up to that point. And instead of just centering around the episode Marge vs. the Monorail, it also brought in elements from fan-favorite episode, Trash of the Titans. I didn't even know that was an episode until I started writing this video. The event had you collect trash throughout your town and turn them into recycling materials, which you'd then use to create pieces for the monorail. You'd then connect stations with track pieces throughout your town, and the train would actually move from station to station. You'd even get to ride your monorail throughout your town. This event far surpassed my expectations, even as a kid. I was afraid that it would be an immovable track or a singular building, but the fact that you can make the monorail as big or small as you wanted was such a cool feature. And even if you didn't play during the event, nearly every item from the update was added permanently a year later so everyone could build their own monorail. This was not only my personal favorite event of the entire game, but possibly objectively the best update as well. But even with 2 major expansions in 1 year, Tapped Out wasn't going to slow down anytime soon. December not only brought a second act for Springfield Heights, with a new boardwalk and a 7th currency, but it also brought the unthinkable. They added Maggie to the game. The 2015 Christmas event finally gave Maggie her own standalone character, while also pointing out the stops to give her a grand arrival. There was a full animated short to accompany her edition, as well as a mini-game where you'd have to search for Maggie as she hid throughout your town. While Maggie's edition came way later than it should have, it was still great to finally have all of the Simpsons together in the game. Except for Roy, they did forget about him for a while. All in all, though, 2015 was arguably the best year for The Simpsons Tapped Out. You had several great events, 2 major expansions, and a substantial level of fan service as well. But unfortunately, after experiencing the absolute highest of highs, you can only go down from there. We got the final level update in 2016 with level 60, but after that, I found myself coming back to the game just less and less. There were still plenty of events happening and all of that, but after I'd completed every level, got most of the characters I wanted, and built up my Springfield, I had lost most of my interest in the game and just eventually stopped playing. Although I would stop playing Tapped Out in 2017, the game was far from slowing down. There were still plenty of events every year, with the next major one being the Itchy and Scratchy Land event where they murdered everyone's Krusty Lands. The devs finally let you build Krusty Land in your Springfield, while also introducing a second theme park and letting you unlock the characters of Itchy and Scratchy. Oh my God. There was also the Northward Bound update in 2021, which gave you even more land to buy above the mountains where you could mine for donuts. The game would celebrate its 10th anniversary in August of 2022, and would give every player a donut statue who played during the event. And aside from 2 more years of constant events, there really wasn't much to speak of in terms of major expansions. But on September 26th, 2024, the inevitable came. The Simpsons Tapped Out would be removed from app stores on October 31st, with the servers officially shutting down on January 24th the next year. The announcement came alongside the Taps event, which would gradually unroll every single item from every update ever, giving players one final chance to own everything they wanted. In-app purchases were disabled as well, so you could earn donuts simply by spending the in-game money. And finally, at 6 p.m. on January 24th, The Simpsons Tapped Out shut down for good. When I first heard about the news of the game's shutdown, I hadn't played the game since the pandemic. Because what the hell else was I supposed to do? But even though I hadn't played the game in a couple of years at that point, I was still pretty sad to hear about it. It was a childhood game for me, and while I could always go back to games like Mario Kart Wii and Wii Sports Resort all I wanted, I could never play Tapped Out ever again. I mean, it was a game that got me through a rough move across the country right as I was entering middle school. It served as an outlet for me whenever I wanted to escape from whatever was happening in real life. And it got me into a damn great show that has helped shape a lot of what my sense of humor is today. I have a lot to owe to this game. A free-to-play mobile game filled with microtransactions, but it still meant a lot to me. So, in the final weeks before the game shut down, I decided to return to The Simpsons Tapped Out for one final time to give my Springfield the send-off that it truly deserves. Alright, today is January 24th, 2025, and we are mere hours away from the closure of The Simpsons Tapped Out, so I figured I'd show you all my Springfield for one final time. I've spent the past couple of days rebuilding my Springfield to my liking. I of course, didn't have enough time to actually get it to where I had everything in the town, but I'm still pretty happy with how everything came out. So we'll start over here in the residential area, I guess. Here we have the Simpsons house, of course. You have Flanders' house with the murdered snowman in the background. And the brown house, if you know, you know. And I just put a bunch of the other houses that you got throughout the game here. Of course, you have the presidential estate where George Bush stayed in that one episode. Over here, we have the elementary school. I actually built this probably like 5 years ago, and I just saved it because you can save it with this selection area thing. So yeah, this has pretty much remained intact from, got way more than 5 years ago, probably like 2018 maybe. Over here you have the park. I kind of modeled it after the episode where Homer goes on like this psychedelic journey with the coyote. Here you can actually play a game with the cauldron where you just kick a bunch of tortoises. 36, that's actually pretty poor. Over here we have the Quickie Mart, Krusty Burger, the library and such. And going upward we have stuff like the Bolorama, and then we have kind of the downtown area with the town hall, the courthouse, the Jebediah Springfield statue. I also put the giant redwood that you built up over time. DMV, some more shops. The Office of Unemployment, which was one of the most useless buildings for a while until they let you actually send everybody on jobs a lot easier. We have the studios right here, the hospital. This was the military school that they went to. And I kind of have like a stadium area here, over here with the baseball stadium and then the Coliseum. We're going to ignore this giant patch of green right here. And for some reason I decided to put the mental hospital right next to the monorail, the airport, and the stadium. Why did I do that? And then up here past the monorail tracks we have Krustyland. I was so happy when they moved this from its own area into Springfield because nobody ever went to Krustyland. They kind of interspersed some stuff from other events in here as well, and then I made Itchy and Scratchy Land its own area as well. There's Parents Island, yeah. Moving back over here, I put a bunch of random shops over here and kind of made it into like an outlet mall with the Springfield Mall, of course, and I put these two parking garages from the Heights update. Then right next to that, of course, is the stupidest things in this town. We have the popsicle stick tower, the 50-foot magnifying glass, and the escalator to nowhere, because you can't have a town without them. Here we have the Duff Brewery, which is actually one of my nicer builds, honestly. And then once you get past all the houses and some other shops, here's Moe's Tavern. We kind of have the shadier part of Springfield, I guess. You have the factories, the dump, the dog track, and past these apartments we have the nuclear power plant. And up here we have the recycling center, too, from the Monorail update. Here we have the Squidport. I tried to model it best after what you see in the actual show, so I put Moe's Brewing Co. and It's a Wonderful Knife. What's funny about this building, actually, is that if you tap on it, it'll actually take you through the tunnel to the actual Moe's Tavern, which is always fun. Then once you get past this, I obviously couldn't finish everything that I wanted, so I just filled in the rest of this area with trees, kind of hid some stuff like the Stonecutter Lodge up here. There's Camp Krusty as well, and here's Springfield Lake, I guess, with the jail right there. Over here past the airport, we have the pig silo from the movie, of course, and if you go past here, we have Shelbyville. I, of course, didn't finish decorating it. Over here you have the sunblocker from Who Shot Mr. Burns, Shelbyville Bluffs, the Rolling Rock, and then Springfield Gorge. And this is kind of where I tailed it off. There's a lot more land that I could have used to put more stuff in, but I just didn't have the time. And I put the Globex Corporation here too, because I wanted it somewhere, at least. Then over by downtown I have Widow's Peak with the Mr. Plow Truck, of course. Of course, the diet sign as well. Oh yeah, this. I have no idea when this building was added. I just got it from the TAPS event. But the moment I saw this, I knew I had to put it in the town somewhere.
Steamed hams.
And then here by the retirement home, we have the Snowman family. Of course, you will never be able to see them in full form again, unfortunately. And then going into Springfield Heights, I first have a bunch of restaurants here, the convention center. There's a Springfield sign as well. Here's Frank's Lab with one of my favorite items in the game, which automatically puts the Christmas lights on every house. A couple more buildings along here, and then the mansions. I didn't really get to finish decorating these either, but here they are. And then here we have the Sun Sphere, and funny story about this. So the 1982 World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee was a very formative memory for my dad, and when we were moving about a decade ago, we actually drove through there. When I told him that the Sun Sphere was actually in the game, he put down some money and let me actually buy it through the donut currency, which is actually pretty cool. And then over here, I kind of have the Badlands area. Here's Mount Carlmore, which for the longest time failed to blend in anywhere in the town until they finally added these dirt paths. And then here's some stuff from the Wild West update as well. So yeah, that's pretty much most of my Springfield. I, of course, have the monorail going through most of the town as well. And thanks to all the free donuts, I was actually able to fully complete the monorail for the first time ever. So this is pretty cool. So yeah, that's pretty much everything with my Springfield here. And now I think it's fitting that we take a picture of this town one final time.